kind of blurry in here. I'm not sure why. I'm cold tonight, so I'm reading in bed early. All right, so when we left off yesterday, Patrick decided on his own account to bring a plastic figure of his own alive, and some very dangerous things happened. And when we stopped yesterday, Little Bear had not even realized what had occurred. So I'm going to jump right in right here. Omri was silent. That reminded him. Where was Little Bear? He looked around. He soon spotted him at the other side of the room, busy with his paints. Some beautiful, minute designs showing turtles, herons, and beavers, mainly in red and yellow, had appeared on the side of the teepee that Omri had made. As Omri crouched beside him to admire them, Little Bear, without looking at him, said, "You bring food. I very soon die, if not eat." Omri looked around. What had he done with that spoonful of stew? But he soon saw that he put it down on the table without thinking. There it sat, tilting slightly and spilling a few drops of gravy, but still steaming hot. He hurried to get Little Bear's, or rather Action Man's, mess tin. The paper plate had gotten all soggy, and he carefully filled it with the hot and savory stew. "Here you are." Little Bear stopped work, laid down his paintbrush, and sniffed eagerly. "Ah, good." He sat down cross-legged among the paint lids to eat, dipping some of yesterday's bread in as a spoon. "Your wife cook?" "Ah, no. Little Bear forget. Omri not got wife." He ate ravenously for a few moments, and then he said, "Not want?" "Oh, I'm having mine downstairs in a minute," Omri said. "Mean, Omri not want wife?" said Little Bear, who was now in a much better mood. I wonder why. "Oh, I'm not old enough." Little Bear looked at him for a moment. "No, I see. Boy," he grinned. "Big boy, but boy." He went on eating. "Little Bear want," he said, finally, not looking up. "Another wife?" "Chief, need wife. Want one. Beautiful. Good cook." He put his face into the mess tin and licked it clean. Then he looked up. "With Iroquois, mother find wife for her son. But Little Bear mother not here. Omri be mother and find wife." Omri couldn't quite see himself as Little Bear's mother, but he said, "I might try. I think there were some lady Indians in Yaps. But what if I get one and I make her real and then you don't like her?" "I like. You get. Tomorrow." Little Bear grinned. His face was smeared with gravy. Lost my place. Patrick had come up behind him. "Let's put them together and see what they do." Omri jumped up quickly. "No." "Why not?" "You idiot, because yours has a gun and mine has a bow and arrow, and one of them's sure to kill each other." Patrick considered this. "Well, we could take their weapons away. Come on, I'm going to." And he reached towards the bed. Just at the moment, there was the sound of steps on the stairs. They froze. Then Omri swiftly moved the dressing-up crate enough to hide Little Bear, and Patrick sat down on the end of the bed, masking his poor cowboy, who was still toiling along over the humps in the quilt. Just in time. Omri's mother opened the door the next second and said, "Patrick, that was your mom on the phone. She wants you to come home right away. And Omri, it's supper." And she went. Omri opened his mouth to protest, but Patrick said, "Oh, okay." With one quick movement, he scooped up the cowboy and horse in his left hand, and he thrust them into his pocket. Omri winced. He could easily imagine the poor horse's legs being injured by such rough treatment, not to mention fright. But Patrick was already halfway out the door. Omri jumped up and he grabbed his arm. "Patrick, you must be careful. Treat them carefully. They're real people. I mean, they're alive. What will you do with them? How will you hide them from your family? I won't. I'll show them to my brother. He'll go out of his mind. Omri began to think he might go out of his mind. He shook Patrick's arm. Will you think? How are you going to explain it? What will happen? If you say you got him from me, I'll do worse than bash you. You'll ruin everything. They'll take my cupboard away. That got through to Patrick at last. He put his hand back into his pocket. Listen then. You can look after them. But remember, they're mine. If you put them back in that cupboard, I'll tell everyone. I'm warning you. I will. Bring them to school tomorrow. To school? Said Omri. I'm not bringing Little Bear to school. You can do what you want with Little Bear. He's yours. The cowboy's mine, and I want him at school tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll tell. Omri let go of his arm, and for a moment they looked at each other as if they were strangers. But they weren't strangers. They were friends. That counts a lot for in this life. Omri gave in. All right, he said. I'll bring them. Now give them to me. Gently. And Patrick brought man and horse out of his pocket, and he tipped them very carefully into Omri's waiting hand. Now that's the end of chapter 8, and I might read a snippet of chapter 9. But before I do that, I want you to think about Patrick being Omri's best friend. Patrick is Omri's best friend. They've been best friends for a very long time. Yet, I want you to think about how Patrick is acting towards Omri right now. The cupboard is his. Omri had the right to make that decision about bringing another plastic figure to life. And I want you to think about whether or not Patrick is respecting Omri's house, Omri's wishes, Omri as his best friend. Consider that for a minute. I'm going to read just the very beginning of chapter 9, which is called Shooting Match. Omri put the cowboy and horse into his sock drawer while he had the quickest supper ever. Then he raced upstairs, stopping only to pinch a few grains of the rat feed for his 2 horses. Shut up in his room, he took stock. A room this size was like a sort of indoor national park to the cowboy and the Indian. It would be easy to keep them apart. For one night, Omri thought first of putting the new pair straight back into the cupboard and then bringing them back to life the next morning for school. But he had promised Patrick he wouldn't. So he decided to empty out the dressing up crate and put the cowboy and his horse in there for the night. The crate was about 2 feet square. There's area there. Made of wooden planks. There was certainly no visible way out of it for the cowboy. Omri put him carefully down into it. Looking down at him, he felt curious about his name, where he came from, and so on. But he decided it was better not to talk to him. The cowboy had clearly decided that Omri was not really there at all. When his big hands reached down, carrying some cold stew and grain for the horse, and later some cotton wool and scraps for bedding, the cowboy deliberately covered his eyes by pulling down his big hat brim. It was only when Omri reached in one final time to give him a drink of water in a minute green glass bottle that he found in the bathroom cupboard that the cowboy finally spoke a word. Take that filthy stuff out of here, he said in his strong Texas accent. I ain't aiming to drink no more of that as long as I live. And he heaved the bottle, which was almost as big as him, up by its base and tipped all the contents onto the boards at the bottom of the crate. It's only water, Omri said. You shut your mouth, said the little man. I won't take no lip from no hallucination. No, sir. Maybe I do drink too much. Maybe I can't hold it like some tough guys do. But if I'm a-getting the delirium and starting to see things, why couldn't I see pink elephants and dancing rats and all them purty things the other fellas see? It ain't fair for me to see giants and blue deserts and get put in boxes the size of the Grand Canyon with no one but my little hoss for my company. He sat down on the pile of hay, took the horse's nose in his arms, put his face against it, and began to sob. Omri was shattered. A cowboy crying? He didn't know what to do. When his mother cried, as she did sometimes when things got too much, she only asked to be left alone till she felt better. Maybe all grown-ups were like that. Omri turned away and got slowly into his pajamas and then went to see how Little Bear was getting along on his side of the crate. Little Bear had finished the painting. The teepee looked really good. Little Bear was now in the longhouse arranging his blanket for the night. The pony was tethered to his post on a long rope. Omri took out the rat food and gave it to him. Then he called Little Bear out. "Are you okay? Is there anything you need?" You should have known better than to ask that. "Plenty! I want fire in my longhouse. Keep warm. Keep animal away. Want tomahawk." "So you can chop bits out of my leg?" Little Bear angry, wouldn't say that. "Sorry now. Use tomahawk to cut down trees, chop firewood, kill fish." "What fish?" Little Bear replied with a very good imitation of a fish swimming. Then he did a mime of catching it, putting it onto a block, and with a whirl of his arm, chopping off his head. "I don't know about that. You get tomorrow fish from plastic. Good tools, but fire now. Chief Little Bear say." Omri sighed. He went to the waste paper basket and picked out the remains of the other fire that he threw away. There was a lot of the firelight left. He gathered up some of the bits of willow bark and twigs from where Little Bear had been working. "You're not having it inside. Far too dangerous." He arranged the fire on the packed earth of the seed tray, about 6 inches from the entrance of the longhouse, first moving the teepee to safety. Then he struck a match, and soon there was a cozy blaze. Little Bear crouched beside it, his red skin glowing and his eyes bright with pleasure. "Little Bear, can you dance?" "Yes, many kinds." "Could you do one now so I could see?" He hesitated. Then he shook his head once. "Why not, though?" "No reason. Dance." "Maybe if I got you a wife?" The Indian looked up eagerly. "You get? Give word?" "I only said I'd try." "Then Little Bear dance. Then do best dance. Love dance." And that's where we're going to stop. So consider this. Does Little Bear, is he even really aware of the cowboy yet? And I hope you're picking up on some of the cowboy's traits and just a little bit of his dialogue and what he said to Omri so far. So we'll catch up tomorrow in Shooting Match. Have a good night.